Welcome back to Cravings Adventures. I'm Karen Ahmed. Today we're making Korean meatballs. A couple of months ago, I made Korean fried chicken on my channel and everybody really loved the recipe. This is a version of that same recipe, but instead I'm going to be using meatballs. And not just meatballs, I'm actually going to take these meatballs and I'm going to cook them in my air fryer. I recently purchased an air fryer and I was anxious to try it out and the results were amazing. Before I go any further with this recipe, do make sure you subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Now let's get cooking. In a saucepan, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of tomato ketchup, 2 tablespoons of gochujang or pepper paste. This is a red chili pepper paste found in most Asian stores. It also contains fermented soybeans and glutinous rice. This paste gives this recipe its telltale red color. I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of honey to balance the spice. Next, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of regular sugar, 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, and 2 tablespoons of light soya sauce. Please note that it's important to use light and not dark soya sauce in this recipe as we want to preserve that traditional red color. Finally, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. I'm now going to turn the heat on and allow this sauce to come together before I stir it. Look how luscious this is. Sweet, salty, spicy, and sticky, all at the same time. I have 1 pound of lean ground beef here and I'm just going to season this very simply with salt to taste, 1 tablespoon of ground white pepper. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic and 1 tablespoon of minced ginger. I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of finely minced spring onion. Next, I'm going to add a whole egg and a 1/4 cup of Panko breadcrumbs. Mix this in very well together to incorporate all of the flavors. I'm using beef in this recipe, but you can also make this with pork, lamb, or chicken. Once everything is mixed together really well, I'm just going to wash my hands and using an ice cream scoop, I'm just going to divide this mixture roughly. Don't worry, you can always adjust the meatballs later if they're too big or too small. Once all the meatballs are portioned out, I'm going to finesse these into a nice meatball shape using oiled hands. If there are any that are too big, I will pinch some of the meat out of them, and if they're too small, I will just add some meat to them. Once these meatballs are ready, you have a few options to cook them. The quickest way would be to deep fry them. If you don't want to deep fry and waste all of that oil, you can also stick them in the oven. purchased an air fryer recently, I'm going to use this to get a nice crispy meatball without any additional fat. In fact, the air fryer is going to melt some of that fat off the meatballs and it will be even leaner. To begin with, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes and I'm going to allow the air fryer to run for about 2 minutes so it's nice and hot. I'm then going to load up the crisper tray with half the meatballs and I'm going to continue the cook process. It's recommended by the manufacturer to remove the basket and shake it at intervals to promote even browning and crispness. So I'm going to keep doing this. Look how amazing these are. I'm going to keep these aside and work on the next batch. Heat up the sauce we prepared earlier. I like to prepare the sauce first and just heat it up while the meatballs are still warm so they can just continue the cooking process. Although I've used the same sauce that I used to coat my Korean fried chicken, I want to adapt it for the meatballs. The fried chicken had a skin of cornstarch for the sauce to hold on to. But for my meatballs that already have a strong flavor, I want to mellow the sauce down, and to do this, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of fresh orange juice. This will also help to loosen up the sauce. Add the meatballs and stir to coat. I'm going to cook this just for a minute or so. The meatballs were pretty much cooked in the air fryer, but I just want to get that flavor into the sauce as well. As you can see, there's a lot of sauce, but it does tend to thicken as it cools. So if you want to serve this as a side dish with rice or noodles, just add a bit more liquid to the base. I like to serve this garnished with a little bit more minced ginger, some spring onion leaves, white sesame seeds, and a little bit of coriander. This is a very popular dish at a potluck. Enjoy! Thank you so much for joining me on Cravings Food Adventures. I really hope you enjoyed this delicious recipe for Korean meatballs. This recipe can be served as a main, as a side, or even as an appetizer. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, guys. Do share my channel as well as my videos with your family and friends. And don't forget to ring that bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. And be sure to follow me behind the scenes on all of my social channels. I upload a ton of behind the scenes footage there, so make sure you're following me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. Until I see you next time, you take care.